necessarily good years. I will just say to all of you, happy holidays and happy new year, because this is the chance we get to do it, and as we're together the last time. This is the longest of all of our meetings. These will be 3 meetings, all wrapped up in one for your holiday viewing. We will go through the agendas and begin with I'm just letting you know, we're going to begin with Library Parcel Tax Oversight. And when that ends, we'll move on. So to begin, Danica, can you call roll?
I surely can. So let me get that screen shared. All righty, there we are. We're on roll call orders of the day. So we'll start with Chair Wendy.
I am here.
Fabulous. Vice Chair Magana.
Present.
Wonderful. Commissioner Zisser.
Present.
There you are. Commissioner Ramtakar. All right. Commissioner Thorson.
Present.
Thank you. Commissioner Mendoza.
Present.
Thank you. Commissioner Kelly.
Sitting right here.
Great. Commissioner Jolly.
I'm here.
Wonderful. Commissioner Ramos.
Present.
Thank you. Commissioner Allen.
Here.
Thank you. And Commissioner Malillo.
Here. And one quick question. I was just looking at the website. Do we only have 12 commissioners right now?
We have,
Do math here.
hold on.
I think we have 11.
Or actually 11. I'm sorry, my math.
11.
Yeah.
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 Okay.
We're getting there. We're getting there. All right, since we are present, all but I think one, we'll move on to consent. And so the consent that we're approving was last year's Library Parcel Tax and Oversight Committee meeting that was on November 18th, 2020. Here's the deal. I believe you don't have to abstain if you read it, but please correct me, library staff. You can, or do folks who were not a commissioner last year need to abstain?
We actually prefer that folks read the minutes and then vote to approve, and we'll rely on those that were present last year to make any corrections. But especially based on the numbers right now, it would be beneficial to not abstain from this vote. Okay,
thank you for the guidance, Anne. So I need a motion to approve the minutes for the meeting that was. Thank you, Commissioner Allen, all over it. So I need a second.
Second.
Thank you, Commissioner. Well, Ramos Allen, this is going to be really fun. Which tic-tac-toe am I going to play? Thank you for the second. All those in favor say aye.
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 Anybody approve? Anybody a no, say no. And any abstentions? Moving right along. This is going to be great. Any correspondence or public record, Danica, for public record?
There is no correspondence this time around.
Great. This is anybody who is here who could raise their hand right now and give public comment in our open forum. If you are interested in doing so, please raise your hand now and we'll determine how many minutes to give you to speak. I see none. Danica, do you see any?
I don't see any hand raised.
I have to work.
Okay. Moving along, we're going right into discussion action item. We're going to have the review of our independent auditors report on the library parcel tax to fund for fiscal year 2021 and advise City Council on the status of the library parcel tax. That is a mouthful and a half. We are ready for the presentation. Take it away. Thank you, Andrea.
Hi, good evening, everyone. With us today, we also have Joe Royce, the city auditor, and then we have Eric Livon from the finance department. So what we're going to be reviewing today is the annual library parcel tax audit, and included in your packet should be the audit, the management letter, as well as the memo from the chair to the mayor and council that is attached to the audit. So we're just going to move right along in the presentation. So as the Library and Education Commission, you also serve as the Library Parcel Tax Oversight Committee. And so the role includes understanding the allowable cost within what can be charged to the library parcel tax, reviewing expenditures for compliance with the ballot language. And so we'll go through those categories shortly, and it's also included in the memo, and review and approval of the outside audit of expenditures. And so the audit includes the review of the expenditures from an external firm by Macias Genie. They're currently the auditor for the city. And so they conduct the audit themselves. And we can go to the next slide, please. So a little bit of history about the library parcel tax. So from 1995 to 2005, it was called the Library Benefit Assessment District. That phased out, and we went to the voters for approval for the library parcel tax, and that was approved and went into effect it was approved in 2004, went into effect in 2005, and that sunsetted in 2015. And so we went back to the voters to request for another extension of 25 years of the library parcel tax, and that was approved by the voters. Sorry, you jumped slides. Going backwards.
Everybody hang in there. We're good.
Okay, so that was overwhelmingly approved, which is great. And so annually, what happens is finance and the library work together and put forth a city council memo to put forward approval from the city council and the mayor for the new rates. And so the rates are capped at a 3% annually, or it would be whatever the actual cost of living increases, or cap of 3%. So every year we go to council for approval in June for the next year's rates. And that is that current measure that was approved is good until 2040. Next slide, please. So during this kind of just covers the types of expenditures that are appropriate based on the language in the ballot measure. And so, or in the library parcel tax measure that was approved. And so we can support library operations in terms of open hours, administration. We can support repair and equipment of library. We can also support homework and educational programming. And there's so much that fits within that category that the library supports in terms of the children's reading program, story times, teens, and as well as seniors and educational programs, as well as adult literacy and job readiness programs. We also can support our acquisitions, books and materials, and that includes our e-resources as well as technology. Next slide, please. For the period being audited, which is July 1st, 2020 through June 30th, 2021, this is kind of a breakdown of the library department budget. And so in 2021, our budget included 75.74 FTE that were funded by the library parcel tax. And so in 15-16, that was the first year of the extension of the library parcel tax. In that year, there was 36.83 FTE funded by the library parcel tax. So it has a significant jump, but it's also important to note that our staffing has also jumped. And so the funding of positions has somewhat over the past, I'd say maybe three years or so, really stayed steady at the 18, 19, 20% range from the library parcel tax. We also funded in this year the collection, books, materials, including e-resources, also some annual fees and software upgrades for our catalog. We also funded some technology items, which included system-wide technology contracts, some licensing. We also had a big data storage upgrade project that was funded through the library parcel tax. Next slide, please. So this is kind of just a little snippet of what the actual expenditures look like. So for our personal services, which is our staff, we in the period of fiscal year 2021, which is the audit period we're reviewing right now, a total of $7.3 million was spent on staffing. And so that includes salaries, benefits, retirements, that includes everything. We spent approximately 1.1 on materials acquisition. So that's our books, e-resources. We spent a little bit, 1.1 million also on our non-personal services and equipment. So that could include supplies, that could include other types of equipment throughout the library as well. We spent about 460,000 on automation projects. So that includes any of our technology, as well as the upgrade project that I previously mentioned on the slide. Our annual audit, we have to pay our external auditor, and then the transfer out. So in previous years, this line item was called, intergovernmental. I believe it was called intergovernmental. That was it. And so it's been relabeled to transfer out, and moving forward, it will be called transfer out, which is more consistent with the way the city recognizes debt service payments from different funds. And so it's a transfer out, but it is a payment of debt service. Next slide, please. So sorry. So overall, our total expenditures were a little over $10 million. And our actual annual revenue was 9.9 million. And then our inflation that was applied was 2.91%. So we didn't quite hit the 3%, but we're at 2.91. And then this is just a summary of what the balance sheet looks like. It's also in the audit report. And so it just talks about where we began our library parcel tax fund balance. We had just shy of $7 million. We received the 9.9 million. We spent the 10.1 million. And so overall, between what went out and what came in, we were down about $206,000. So our ending fund balance for the library parcel tax is $6.7 million. And so, which is a healthy rolling fund balance. Next slide, please. And so this just covers what the audit basis is. And so they review our financial records, and then also the justification and background documentation related to any of the expenditures. And so if we have a contract in place with a vendor, if there's an invoice, making sure there's supporting documentation, or if there's any other types of transactional activities. And so they look for internal controls. Is somebody that is approving the payment, not entering the payment, or approving the invoice, not entering the payment, or just making sure that all of those types of controls are in place. And they do take a sampling of the transactions. So they do not review every single transaction, they take a sampling. And for this period being covered, there were no audit findings of inappropriate expenditures for the library parcel tax. Next slide, please. And so that's it on the presentation, but I did want to briefly talk about some of the questions that were asked during the last meeting. And so some of the questions that were asked, one was who were our external auditors? And so it is an external audit firm, Macias Genie. They've had a contract with the city now for a couple of years, and there was a couple of years they weren't our auditor, but then they came back. So they're very familiar with the city's financials and all the different funds. And so that's really great. What period's being covered? And so that is July 1st, 2020 through June 30th, 2021. And so the city's financials are on a fiscal year of July 1st, July 1st through June 30th every year. And one of the questions that the commission asked was, what are they auditing specifically about the library parcel tax? And so the external auditors answered this question for us. And so they review, they audit the basic financial statements, the balance sheet, statement of revenues, expenditures, and change in fund balance, along with accompanying notes. And so they report on any internal controls as it relates to financial reporting, and report on the compliance with certain provisions of Measure S around how the parcel tax funds can be spent. And The other question was, during the pandemic, was there an impact of the use of funds? And so specific for the library, that I wouldn't say there was a impact in terms of our ability to use the funds. I will say the city overall had a hiring freeze. And so we did have some struggles in terms of making sure our positions were exempted and we can move forward with hiring staff. And so that was a bit of a delay during the fiscal year, but other expenditures were on track. And the last question was, were there any findings in the library parcel tax audit? And that is a no. And so I am done with my presentation, but I'm going to open it up to our city auditor if he has anything he'd like to add.
Thank you. First of all, thanks for having me. I think that was a great summary. I really don't have too much to add, but as was mentioned earlier, I am open. I'm here to answer any questions, as well as Eric from the finance department. But thank you again for serving as the oversight body, and happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, team. So I am going to call anyone who has questions, and I'm looking across. Commissioner Kelly, I recognize you. Please ask away.
Yes, it's an excellent report, and the report that the auditing committee made was really, really good. I enjoyed reading it. That sounds kind of strange, but it was very good. I have a question though. On page 13 of the report, it refers to the $25 per household fee, and it refers to single family residences. Now there's proposals before the city council to end that designation. How is that going to affect, or will it affect, moving forward into the 2040s and the 2030s?
So I don't know the answer to that. I do know that the way that it works out is there are different categories included in the library parcel tax, and different rates applied depending on the category. And so I think I want to say perhaps might be 8 or 5 or 8. I can't recall, that currently are included, and we break it out in our annual memo, but I'm not sure how or what the impact would be as it relates to if that designation goes away. And I see Anne Grabowski has unmuted herself, so she might be able to help.
Thanks, Anne.
The proposal before the city council is to end the single family zoning designation, but the parcel level designation, the type of development will stand. And so since our rate is based on the type of parcel, not the zoning designation, that should not be affected by any changes the city council makes to the zoning and land use provisions.
Yeah, just for legal purposes, I would think you would want to double check on that. I think it would be important from the commissioner's point of view to make sure that that is true, because that's a substantive issue and a very controversial issue. That's all I have to say. It's just a legalistic thing.
Thank you, Commissioner Kelly. Commissioner Allen.
Hi, I just wondered, I'm assuming that there is a senior exemption for the library parcel tax. And if so, do we have any figures as to how many seniors actually ask for the exemption?
The exemptions that I'm aware of is a nonprofit, and I am not aware of a senior exemption, but I'd have to look into that. And as far as nonprofits, I do not know how many, but I think we could probably gather that information. I just am not aware of it off of the top of my head.
I was more concerned with the seniors. Because I
Okay.
know the school district, you can, there's an exemption on their parcel taxes, but I wondered if the library also had it on theirs. But if
Let
not,
me look.
that's okay. I don't ever exempt myself, so.
The library's parcel tax follows the traditional parcel tax language. And so I believe that there is an exemption within it, though it's not, that's at the county level. So we'll go to the county assessor's office and understand that data.
Any other questions before I ask for a motion to accept the review? Seeing none, can I have a motion to accept?
Move acceptance.
Motion to approve.
Oh, I got Commissioner Allen. Oh, yeah, I
I'll
got.
second it.
Okay, I'll do it the other way around. Commissioner Kelly on the first, Commissioner Allen on the second. Everybody ready to vote? Everybody in favor of accepting, please say aye.
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 Anyone ready to oppose, please say oppose. Any abstentions, please say I abstain. All right, it's passed. We are 1 of 3 down. Moving to the next item, our next agenda for this particular meeting will be November 16th, 2022. It seems strange to say that, 7 p.m. We're adjourned. All right, let's move to our next Library Bond Oversight Committee. I am going to call the meeting to order at 7:21, and we close the other one at 7:20. Can you, Danica, take roll?
I would love to. So once again, down the line, Chair Wendy,
I'm here.
fabulous. Vice Chair Magana,
Present.
wonderful, thank you. Commissioner Zisser,
Present.
great. Commissioner Ramtekar,
Present.
oh, thank you. Commissioner Thorson,
Present.
thank you. Commissioner Mendoza,
Present.
thank you. Commissioner Kelly,
Still here.
great. Commissioner Jolly,
Also still here.
fabulous. Commissioner Ramos.
Here.
Wonderful. Commissioner Allen,
Present.
great. And Commissioner Malolo,
Here.
thank you. There's a quorum.
Yay. All right, moving on. If I could have folks that have read or participated to help us approve the minutes from the meeting on November 18th, 2020. Can I have a motion to accept?
Motion to accept.
Thank you, Commissioner Kelly. Can I have a second?
Second, Commissioner Thorson.
Thank you, Commissioner Thorson. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Moving right along. Is there any public record for us to read, Danica?
There's no public record.
Excellent. Is there, I just want to make sure if anyone would like to give public comment, they can raise their hand, and determining how many people are there will determine the time limit. If you are interested, please raise your hand now. Seeing none, moving on to our discussion and action item to review independent auditor's report on the library bond project fund for fiscal year 2021 and advise the city council of the status of the library projects fund. Andrea, take it away.
Good evening. We have with us our city auditor, Joe Royce, as well as Eric Lemon from the finance department to help answer any questions if they come up related to the bond oversight audit. So annually, the library bond funds are audited by the external auditor, Macias Genie, and they're reviewed by the bond oversight committee, which is the Library and Education Commission. They were appointed as the committee. Next slide, please. As part of that oversight role, you're to understand the allowable costs within the bond fund, review expenditures for compliance with the ballot language, as well as review and approve outside audit of expenditures. And so our external auditor does complete external audit, which is a sampling of various transactions within the financial system for the audit period. This particular audit period is July 1st, 2020 through June 30th, 2021. And you all should have the audit as well as the management level letter, as well as the draft oversight committee memo to the council and mayor. Next slide, please. So the history of the library bonds fund. So in November 2000, Measure O was approved, and so almost $212 million of general obligation bond funds were approved to be issued. And so these are restricted for the purchase of property and construction of improvements for the library. And so these are the specific bond funds for the libraries. And we cannot pay for any administration or staffing. And in 2019, 2020, there was something new that was implemented, which is capital project management staff charges are no longer allowed by the city. And so prior to fiscal year 1920, we were allowed to charge capital project management staff costs, and we no longer can do that. And so none of those expenses are recovered through the bond fund anymore. They were built into our department budget. Next slide. In fiscal year 2021, we spent approximately $323,000. We completed a security camera installation for Cambrian Branch Library, Edenville, Pearl Avenue, Rose Garden, as well as Vineland. We only have 3 remaining branches left, and we're already underway for getting those completed this fiscal year. So all of our, after this year, all of our branches will have also their security cameras installed, and we'll be very likely revisiting to see the older branches, what types of improvements or upgrades need to happen to those systems. During fiscal year 2021, we also did a big roof replacement at Hillview Branch Library. And so during fiscal year 2021, we did not have as many projects completed as we originally planned. There were some delays as a result of COVID, which included, anything from trying to procure the actual equipment, or trying to procure go through the RFP and procurement process. So we do have a lot of projects that we are tracking to start and complete this year. And so that's just a little bit of a summary of our expenses from the last fiscal year. Next slide, please. So what is reviewed during the audit basis is the financial records. They review any justification or backup documentation related to the project management costs, any contracts associated with payments, invoices, supporting documentation, any other types of financial transactions that occur within the fund, as well as any tasks that are performed by staff. And so they also look at internal controls, just making sure there's a separation of duties and not one person is processing every single item or approving and approving. So just making sure there's those controls in place. And for this period that was audited, there were no audit findings of inappropriate expenditures for the library bond fund. Next slide, please. And that's it. And so before we move, I want to just briefly answer a couple of questions that did come up at the last meeting. And so one of the questions was, what specifically are they auditing about the library bond fund? And so the external auditor, Macias Genie, responded to this question and said they're auditing the basic financial statements, balance sheet, as well as statement of revenues, expenditures, and the change in fund balance. They're also reporting on any internal controls as it relates to financial reporting, and they're reporting on the compliance with certain provisions of Measure O and how the bond funds can be spent. One of the other questions that was asked was, what period is the audit? And so the period is July 1st, 2020 through June 30th, 2021. That's the audit that we're reviewing for this period. And the other question that was asked is if there was any impact on the audit due to the pandemic. And so Macias Genie stated that there wasn't much an impact. All the records were available electronically. They were able to remotely do a lot of the work, and the city staff was responsive to the request for information. And so that was very helpful. And another question that was asked, were there any findings in the library bond audit? And no, there were no findings. The funds were deemed used appropriately. And I think, did the pandemic impact our use of the library bond funds? And so it did somewhat impact our use in terms of some of our projects were delayed. Some of the procurement processes took a lot longer than they would have pre-COVID. And so we, just like many other departments, just kind of working through it and making sure we're continuing to move those along. And that concludes everything that for the library bond audit.
Thank you, team, again, for a great audit. At this time, do any commissioners have a question that they'd like to be recognized and asked? I'm looking around. Okay, look at that. You answered them all from your Q&A. Thank you very much. Can I have a motion to accept the review of the independent auditor's report?
So moved.
All right, can I have a second?
Second,
All right, we did it the opposite this way. First from Commissioner Allen, second from Commissioner Kelly. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Anyone opposed?
Aye.
Oh, thank you. Anyone opposed? Any abstentions? And we move it along. It's accepted and moved. The next meeting for this series, the second of the series, will be on November 16th, 2022 at 7:30 or thereabouts. We will adjourn at 7:31. Thank you. And we will move on. Get the next agenda up.
We made it.
Okay, thank you, team. I really, really appreciate all the work you do, and all the folks, please tell them behind the scenes. We know it takes a lot of folks to get an audit done. All right, as we move on, let's call to order our regular Library and Education Commission meeting. Danica, can you take roll?
One last time, everybody. All right, down the line, Chair Wendy.
I am here.
Fantastic. Vice Chair Magana.
Present.
Wonderful. Commissioner Zisser.
Present.
Great. Commissioner Ramtakar.
Still present.
Wonderful. Commissioner Thorson.
Present.
Great. Commissioner Mendoza.
Present.
Wonderful. Commissioner Kelly.
yes, ma'am.
Great. Commissioner Jolly.
I see you.
I was gonna say,
I'm
I see you
here.
in the
I'm
list.
having
I see
internet
you.
problems.
Yeah, we see you.
Okay.
Commissioner Ramos.
Present.
Great. Commissioner Allen.
Here.
Wonderful. And Commissioner Malillo.
Here.
Wonderful. All right. The quorum is still here.
And away we go. Let's see, for our consent calendar today, you see, and this is the, again, this is the last meeting for our regular commission meeting for this year. So that being said, can I have a motion to accept our consent calendar?
Make that motion again.
Thank you, Commissioner Kelly. Can I have a second?
Commissioner Jolly
please.
seconds.
Thank you, Commissioner Jolly. I feel like it's like I don't know, I don't know what it feels like, but you guys are going fast and good. Everybody who's in favor, please say aye.
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 Aye. Aye.
All right. Anyone opposed? Any abstentions? So moved. Let's go. Public record, Danica, any record that are reading for correspondence?
Still no correspondence.
All right. And again, if there's anyone in the meeting that would like to give public comment on subject matter, please let us know now by raising your hand. I'm looking around. It looks like there is no one, and we will keep moving. All right, let's begin again with discussion action items. This one's an action item. It's to appoint committee to prepare the annual library budget message to City Council. Andrea, do you want to talk about it? And then I'll help you. How do you want to go?
So I can just briefly talk about the process. So annually, the commission appoints a committee to prepare the annual library budget message to be delivered to City Council. And so what we do is we have a committee that works together. And the last 2 years, we met 3 times. So last year we met 3 times, and those 3 meetings were probably about maybe 30 minutes each. And then we kind of worked together. I shared the document from my OneDrive, and we worked together on editing the document. And so the purpose of this is to really, really focus on what the library priorities are and what the commission wants to message to the city council about the upcoming budget cycle and what the library priorities are for the commission. And so I'm really excited this year again to work with the team from the commission on this, and would love to get some volunteers if possible.
All right, thank you very much. Commissioner Allen, Ramos Allen, sorry.
My Zoom probably confuses everyone. I'm happy to volunteer.
Thank you. That is great. Aaron Zisser, sorry, Commissioner Zisser.
That's okay. You can call me Aaron.
Yeah.
I will gladly volunteer as well. I think it'd be a great opportunity for me to learn more about how things work there.
Excellent. And so everyone knows I'll also be a part of the process, just so we know. And we're looking, I think, for 2 or 3, no more than about 2 or 3 is where we're going. Okay,
Chair,
go ahead.
Chair Wendy, if you need one more, I'd be happy to volunteer.
All right, Commissioner, I appreciate that. Going again. Let's see, how many is that, Andrea?
I have Commissioner Ramos Allen, yourself. Is that what you had said, Wendy?
Yes, yep.
And then I am gonna butcher Commissioner Aaron's last name. I am sorry. I don't even attempt. So as well. So that's 3.
And that's about what you need, or do you need one more? Because if you do, it's either Commissioner Malilo or it looks like Commissioner Kelly. But is 3 what you need?
Yeah, I think 3.
The Brown Act.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, we were looking at how many are in the Brown Act thing. Commissioner Ramos.
Yeah, we can't, the only reason I was volunteering was because the first 2 were, would be their first time. But if you're, Wendy, if you're gonna be there, I think that's enough.
No, I think it's good. 2 and 2. I think yeah, I appreciate that. Thank you. Yeah, I see what you're saying. Actually, let me think about this, because I'm going to have to review it anyway. How about we go for Commissioner Ramos Allen, we go for Commissioner Zisser and Commissioner Malilo. That way we have 2 new, 1 old, and a final old review. Old as in old to review. With that, please, the staff, is that great? It will work for you, Andrea?
Yes. Yes, thank you.
All right, so we have our library budget message, folks. I need a motion to accept this committee.
So moved. This is Vice Chair Magana.
Thank you, Vice Chair. Do we have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Commissioner Allen. All right, all those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
If anyone's opposed, say it now, please. And any abstentions, let us know. All right, Commissioners, are your hands still up? Do you need something, or was that yeah, there we go.
Sorry.
No worries. All right, passes, moving on. Thank you for your service. We appreciate it. It's really important that we do this messaging as we think about funding next year and the areas that we really need support and focus and energy from the mayor and city council. So thank you in advance. All right, let's move on to some fun informational stuff. I'm really looking forward to this. We're going to have a presentation, Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion Report. And we are really looking forward to it. Let's see, I'm trying to see where we are. There you are, Carla. Sorry, you know how it goes. It's like, where are the squares? Please take it away and let us enjoy your report.
All right, thank you very much. Danica, can you project the PowerPoint? Thank you. Good evening, commissioners. Again, my name is Carla Alvarez, and I'm the Community Programs Administrator for Equity and Inclusion Services at San Jose Public Library. On May 7th, 2008, the City Council unanimously approved the Education and Digital Literacy Strategy and provided the direction that the library lead the development and implementation of a comprehensive educational policy and work plan. And the policy that arose from the strategy establishes equity, diversity, and inclusion, or EDI, as it is often referred to in abbreviated form, as an expectation of inclusive programming that intentionally monitors outcomes and removes barriers to ensure community access. More broadly, at the City of San Jose, the efforts to advance equity include a June 2020 approval from City Council Resolution number 79575, authorizing the City Manager's Office to create an Office of Racial Equity. And in that same June 2020, there was also a memorandum from several council members who emphasized the need to make equity a more explicit part of council deliberations, building on San Jose's partnership with the Government Alliance on Race and Equity, also known as GARE, since 2018. The library was the first department in the city to include a dedicated position for equity and inclusion, which began in February 2020. Next slide. As reported last year, the bulk of the equity work for 2020 and early 2021 were dedicated to making modifications, expansions, and introducing new initiatives in response to the pandemic changes. As we now shift our focus to pandemic recovery efforts, it is impossible to ignore the way in which the pandemic has exacerbated inequities, particularly among communities of color, for disabilities access, and economically vulnerable residents, just to name a few. By incorporating an equity lens, San Jose Public Library recognizes the importance of identifying the changed and emerging needs in our communities, rebuilding relationships, and creating programs in response to these needs. This includes attending community events outside our own branches, such as the Tully Night Market pictured here, and re-engaging with our community members and partners about services, resources, and programming needs in their trusted spaces. Next. As part of the education and digital literacy strategy, the library has been developing quality standards in order to establish parameters for developing, assessing, and reporting on program quality. These standards apply to all city-funded, operated, or endorsed programs. And this year, we began working on the framework related to equity, diversity, and inclusion goals in city programming, which have become the Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion Quality Standards. The process for developing these EDI quality standards consisted of several months of work, beginning with a group of SJPL staff, including 3 librarians, who researched best practices in equity, diversity, and inclusion, identified at other library branches, government agencies, educational institutions, nonprofits, and the private sector. The library then invited subject matter experts to join an ad hoc committee to determine the scope and criteria that would become our quality standards framework. The ad hoc committee met twice this fall, and you can see the timeline pictured in this slide, beginning from spring to summer 2022 and ending at the end of last month. Next. Quality standards provide the foundation for quality assessments and define the outcomes, indicators, and metrics for evaluation. The equity, diversity, and inclusion quality standards recommended by the ad hoc committee comprise 6 areas. Can you click one more time? Anti-racist approach, inclusive programming, data collection and analysis, culturally relevant pedagogy, community involvement in programming, and outreach as key to inclusion. The committee's feedback included the importance of prioritizing resources to historically underserved communities, of intentionally planning for and integrating community feedback into our programming design throughout the program cycle, the importance of plain and accessible language, materials, and imagery, as well as ensuring that holistic and targeted outreach is integrated into program plans to ensure that targeted community members learn about and participate in the opportunities available to them. We made the decision to lead with anti-racism and intersectionality or in other words, the interconnected nature of social categories such as race, gender, abilities, disabilities, class, to name a few, and to continually scan for and address policies and practices that inequitably and negatively impact our diverse communities. A key aspect of our discussions in the ad hoc committee included the importance of establishing training and tools to build programming staff capacity to not only understand these concepts, but also infuse program implementation with this approach and ultimately ensure that equity, diversity, and inclusion is baked into the way in which teams carry out their work as a whole across all levels and dimensions. Further details regarding the scope and the criteria of the current work in progress on these quality standards were included as an attachment to this memo. For the next few months, I will continue to reach out to stakeholders who were unable to join us during our ad hoc meetings and make sure we gather their inputs and further refine the draft. As a working document, we will also plan for additional spaces to integrate community feedback. Next slide. One of the tools that SJPL developed in 2019 and is critical to guide our service model delivery is the Equity Index. As the library continues to make necessary adaptations in programming and overall service delivery to meet the needs of all, especially those who are historically underserved, the Equity Index is a tool that allows us to visualize areas of higher disparities in access to services. The screening tool illustrated here informs the library's strategy in response to the gaps and variances of community needs, availability of local service providers, and library operations. The index combines library data points, census information, and San Jose social progress indicators to create a tool that visualizes community areas facing disadvantages in relation to the rest of San Jose. Pictured here is a snapshot of the data visualization, including library branch locations, bridge libraries, 1 mile walking distance areas to a branch, as well as key population demographics. This map was used for understanding access to libraries when identifying potential bridge library locations, as an example. Next slide. Last year, the commission also proposed we highlight our equity work with the public. We are happy to share that we now have a new section on our website, sjpl.org/equity-inclusion. This new section of our website includes subsections on anti-racism resources, reading recommendations for SJPL staff, information about library by mail, and other resources, as well as programs. Next slide. The new website section also includes some important definitions as part of normalizing these concepts. Having a shared language is vital to advancing equity to ensure we are understanding the same meanings, references, and issues overall. At SJPL, we identified these 4 equity principles and definitions as follows. Equity, we recognize each person is unique and with different needs. We strive to provide everyone with what they need to succeed. Diversity, we see and try to understand our differences. This includes race, ethnicity, language, abilities, age, gender, sexual orientation, and other traits. And it also includes different ideas, views, and values. Inclusion. Everyone belongs at SJPL. We value the uniqueness of each person. We support building connections with each other, and we commit to remove barriers to our resources and services. Anti-racism. We work to eliminate policies and practices that unfairly impact Black, Indigenous, and people of color, also referred to as BIPOC, that abbreviation. We must actively work to fight against racism. This includes recognizing personal biases and learning how to overcome them. The focus on anti-racism is very important and highlights the need for ongoing work to look at our policies and practices. This also correlates to the work carried out by the city's Office of Racial Equity. As part of this effort, one of the new web pages features a resource page on anti-racism material, as I mentioned previously, to deepen individuals' understanding of racism and recommended organizations leading anti-racism efforts. Librarians also develop book recommendations for children of various ages and caregivers, as well as for teens, adults, and educators and Spanish speakers based on our catalog. We welcome members of the public to explore through these materials. Next slide. We currently have 4 staff-led equity working groups outlined in this slide. Our Disabilities Access Committee during this past fiscal year undertook 4 main projects, developing content for the accessibility page that is now part of the equity subsection on our website, launching the Library by Mail service, expanding wheelchair accessible workstations at all locations, and video transcript editing, resulting in 141 hours of SJPL programs. Beginning in November 2021, the committee will launch an accessibility user survey to better understand the needs of this community and identify opportunities for the library to support. Plans are also underway to increase the number of adaptive text stations to more branches throughout the system. Currently, the library has 6 adaptive text stations, all based at King Library. The Insiders Committee focused this past year developing pre-recorded programs, which have a total of 1,256 views. Staff are planning 2 key upcoming events, a resource fair in March 2022, and an event around Disability Awareness Day in October 2022. The library's racial equity team works to deepen conversations and increase racial equity in library service delivery. This past year, the RET undertook a series of projects, including piloting racial ethnic affinity groups, developing safety training and protocol recommendations, as well as leading several sessions for SJPL staff throughout the year. A total of 5 affinity groups were piloted in July 2021 for staff who identify as Asian, Latinx, or Hispanic, Indigenous or Native, mixed race, or Black, as well as a white learning ally group. The groups are open to staff of all classifications, and their participation, an hour per month, is included as part of their work time for those who desire to participate. The groups are facilitated by racial equity team members who attended trainings during the year. And another large project undertaken by the RET was the development of protocols and training materials for responding to and reporting on behavioral incidents at the libraries. RET's Tools and Data Subcommittee developed recommendations in order to standardize responses to behavioral incidents, reduce implicit bias in reporting, and increase overall staff development and community engagement that is being proposed and included in the broader Safety Commission. This coming year, the RET will continue to focus on the affinity and ally group development, as well as supporting professional development opportunities and growth pathways for employees of color and entry-level staff. The RET members will also prepare additional staff learning spaces, including reflection exercises around the library's collections and how to enhance racial, ethnic, social, ability, and linguistic perspectives. Lastly, but not least, the LGBTQ+ committee was formed very recently in September 2021 to amplify LGBTQ+ voices and experiences throughout the year. The committee will meet quarterly to plan programming around key dates such as Pride, National Coming Out Day, and others. And staff will also recommend trainings and other learning opportunities for SJPL staff to better understand and support LGBTQ+ lived experiences. Next. Beginning late 2020, SJPL modified its community conversations format to focus on particular themes and emerging issues. Each quarter, SJPL staff work in district groupings to facilitate conversations, including occasional guest presenters. As part of our equity approach, the library now also includes separate sessions for Spanish only and Vietnamese only speakers. The slide picture here includes the topics we've covered so far, which have included sessions on the digital divide, covered COVID-19 vaccine information, preparations for indoor library access and consulting the public on their interests and priorities. And currently, we are hosting a series on race and inequity, featuring local community leaders who are advancing projects in support of communities of color here in San Jose. Community conversations are also a volunteer Waive Your Fines opportunity, providing patrons with the opportunity to have up to $20 applied to waive overdue fines for their participation. Next. This past year, we had the wonderful support from a VISTA fellow and Nubapathic, who were supported with research, data gathering and analysis, stakeholder mapping, and developing systems for our community conversations and digital literacy programming. As we look ahead for this year, we will continue refining the EDI quality standards, as well as developing a resource list of recommended tools and trainings. Each staff working group is in the process of working on their identified priority projects. And as the new tiered programming approach is introduced with corresponding data collection, we will move deeper into program impact analyses and planning with our equity index. We also look forward to continue to working with the city's Office of Racial Equity and colleagues across the city departments to continue advancing on this work for the city as a whole. Next slide. And that concludes my presentation. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Carla. I think there was a question. I saw a hand pop up in the chat. So, well, before I call on commissioners, just take a look, peek. I think it's, yeah, you got it.
I see the ad hoc committee met this year. So it was in September and October of this year, just a few weeks ago.
Thank you for answering that. Okay, I see Commissioner Zisser. Would you like to ask your questions?
Yeah, I want to thank you, Chair Wendy. I want to be respectful of the process, though I'm not an expert on the rules of commissions like this. So I want to ask you, first of all, Chair Wendy, as you know, as others here know, this is a topic of enormous importance to me. And so I actually have a number of questions and comments, and I don't want to dominate the conversation. So what is the process for, I'm happy to sort of take turns. I'm happy to ask a bunch of questions. I defer to you about the process here.
So let me think about that. You know, our commission typically has been a gracious, people ask a couple questions and move on. If they want more detail, they go to the staff so that we can fairly and equitably express ourselves. So I appreciate you asking that question so as not to incidentally, accidentally dominate in a culture that really is shared communications. So what would you think about, why don't you prioritize your top two, three questions and go for it, and others you can take to staff after. Would that work for you?
Sure. Yeah, I appreciate that. I just want to start by, I read this report. I just, as always, these presentations and reports are just overwhelmingly impressive. I think the library staff, I hope they feel enormous pride in the work they're doing on this. It really is a model. And there are some things I have questions about where we might even challenge ourselves to do even better. And so I will ask a couple of those. And then I also have questions about how we can sort of amplify the hard work that y'all have done across the city. So I'll try, and maybe Chair Wendy, if I feel like there's still some important questions, maybe I'll let others then ask, and then we'll circle back if there's time, rather than going to the staff on some questions I'd like everyone to hear. But I'll do that,
or I would say, Commissioner Zisser, I'm happy to put it on the next agenda for us to do as well. So if you want to, if they don't get answered and you really want to make sure there's a full, more robust, when I ask for items for next agenda, please offer that, and we'll consider putting it on the January agenda. Just so that we're this is a new way of working together.
Great suggestion. No, that's a great suggestion. I appreciate that. A couple comments. One is, as you were talking, I went to the library website just to refresh my recollection, and I just would commend other people to go look at the website through this lens. Just the main website is extremely diverse in terms of the photos, the representation. It's integrated into the main website, not just in an equity section. I think that deserves a lot of credit. I think I noticed on the equity webpage, the primary photo, at least right now, is of a person with an intellectual disability. I personally appreciate that as someone who's done a lot of disability rights work. I think that's a community that we don't always think about when we talk about equity. And there's just a lot of great content on that webpage. I guess I would suggest, and maybe I'm missing it, but I would just suggest that the link to the equity webpage be more prominent on the main page. I'm not sure it's immediately obvious how that it exists or how to get there. There's a lot of information, links for specific populations by age and things like that. And I think if we want to integrate this into the main website, that would be good, and get people there real easily. I'll prioritize these two questions. Well, let me just say one other thing. The community conversations list looks amazing. And again, something that should be featured real prominently so that people actually attend those. Yvonne Maxwell is one of my favorite people in San Jose. She's just an amazing resource. And she's at the intersection of mental health and the African-American community in San Jose. And she's just a tremendous person. And then you have someone from the CARE organization who's also tremendous. So I'm sure the other speakers are also amazing. So I'm just kind of overwhelmed by the amazing work happening. So thank you. Here are my two questions. I'll ask them together and so that you can address them quickly. One is maybe for the chair and the other is for staff. On for staff, given that you were the first out the gate to start a race and equity team internally, I'm wondering, first of all, what kind of help you get from the very small Office of Race and Equity at San Jose. I think they're a great resource. I know Suma Maciel, she's amazing. And I'm curious, you mentioned a couple things, but I'm curious if that's a resource that you've been able to take advantage of. And then sort of relatedly, are you seen as a resource across other city departments? Are we sort of taking advantage of what you all are doing to hold us up as a model, to hold your efforts up as a model for other departments across the city? I'm the head of my race and equity team at my job, and we've recently started modeling for the police department in Oakland, where I work. And I wonder if there's opportunities or if that's already happening. My question for the Chair Wendy is, staff mentioned that there was an ad hoc committee. Given the importance and sort of the ongoing evolution on these questions, I guess and it's a genuine question, I don't know the structure, I don't know the rules on this. Is this a topic that we could make into a standing committee, that we ought to consider making into a standing committee so that we're constantly engaged in a really deep way and really hearing from staff on all the deep work they're doing? I know that was a lot. I'll leave it there. There's plenty. I have several other questions, and I like your suggestion about saving them for another time. This should be an ongoing topic, not isolated to a single report. I've appreciated that each and every meeting I've gone to, there's been a robust discussion on race and equity. I am just sort of continually bowled over by and just incredibly proud as a resident of the attention that we're giving as a system to these populations. So thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. I'll go first, and then if staff wants to talk about the work we've done in either your work with our own office and or thoughts of working across the library networks. As far as it being an ad hoc committee, I would say, Commissioner, we would look at our work plan and we determine annually the work that we're going to do and the way that we're going to allocate volunteer commissioner time and then staff allocated spent time. It's certainly something we bring up, and we can keep bringing it up, and we can look down to see. We would need a majority to decide that we're going to have that as a standing committee, not an ad hoc. So I would again suggest you could put it on the agenda for discussion in January, as if you so wish. When I ask for it later, when I ask for agenda items, that would be excellent. And I would love to turn it over to you for the rest.
In 2014, the city council actually changed the municipal code related to boards and commissions to discourage the use of standing subcommittees as part of commissions. To my knowledge, that practice has not changed, which is why we make regular use of ad hoc committees so that we can continue to do the work without kind of running afoul of the staffing best practice set by the city. I don't want to go so far as to say that it's written in statute because I'm not sure that it is, but I was part of those discussions and remember very clearly that subcommittees had to be included in the work plan, had to be approved by the rules committee. There was a rigorous process, et cetera, et cetera. All of that to say is that I think I would recommend that we would go back to the clerk's office and the city manager's office and do a check-in with them about subcommittees specifically for this topic, because it is of critical importance to the library in this present moment and to our kind of ethos as an organization. So I think it's worth revisiting, although it's not a practice that the city would encourage us to have widely. So I don't know that we need it to be a discussion topic in January so much that staff will come back with additional information on what the city stance is for subcommittees and what the process would be to establish one in January.
Thanks. You're the best.
Through the chair, just a quick follow-up.
Yes, let me, before you do that, Commissioner, I just want to also talk about, we have spent over, I want to say now we're almost in 2 years, working in each of the areas of development on quality standards and each of the requirements in all of the areas that the city library touches or education programs touch has a component of quality that includes EDI. And so I just want to say that this is not a new topic to the Library Commission. It's not a new topic to our work, as you well know. So this is something that, to be assured, we are, and the staff is working deeply on this continually, and that's why they bring it to us. I can say that from direct experience, as we built the first early learning quality standards. That was the first committee to go, which I was lucky enough to be the sub-chair, co-chair with Jose Magana and Commissioner Jolly to get it done. And so I know that they don't give up on this. Oh, go ahead, Commissioner Sisser. And then I'd like to move to Commissioner Kelly.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I should know this, but what standing, and we can save this for another time, but what standing committees do currently exist at the Library Commission, if any? I think you just mentioned one.
Because of we've only employed ad hoc committees because of the city's posture to not allow standing committees except in rare occasions.
Gotcha, thank you.
All right, Commissioner Kelly.
Yes, thank you. My questions and comments will be much briefer. But I do want to amplify on what Aaron was talking about. I think his use of the term amplification was very appropriate. So what my questions are, is this going to trickle down to the volunteers and the friends? Because this is an important topic. It could be very useful for the friends and the All Friends group to make sure that we're following those guidelines, and it would also allow us, or I should say, give us license to invite more people of diversity to serve as volunteers and friends of the various libraries. Second question ties in with that. How was the ad hoc committee chosen in order to make sure that it was diverse enough for this program?
Carla, if you want to take some of that.
Yeah, I will be happy to. Maybe I'll start from the last question and work my way back up. So thank you very much for all of your questions and your remarks. First of all, I think the library is really excited and committed to continuing to advance on this work. Actually, yes, to start with a point on the quality standards, while we're currently working on the equity, diversity, and inclusion quality standards right now, specifically, every single set of quality standards beforehand has included at least one component of equity explicitly as part of their quality standards process. So it has been an ongoing process to now try to unify all of it and weave a common thread throughout how we look at programming as a whole with that lens. And to, first of all, the question around how will we expand this work and include volunteers and friends of the library. That's actually one of my goals for this coming year. My work plan that I've established is to really start including that, not only with the friends of the library, but also with the commissioners, and sharing some of these tools and trainings that we develop and that we record, and making that material available, and having those spaces of reflection for folks here in this commission, and also for our friends of the library who are so critical to advancing and supporting and building out our work. So yes, that is definitely part of the plan. The past year really changed the way in which we had to prioritize what we did with this work because of the pandemic, and just having to be very responsive to all of the needs that were coming up in the crisis. But now that we've now established more of that structure and those internal workings with our own library staff, we want to continue now building it out to the other circles and important stakeholders that form an integral part of the library. And how was the committee chosen for this for these quality standards? We did a series of invitations out to recognize community leaders, CBO partners that we worked with in the past, voices with representing a diverse set of lived experience or technical expertise, and we extended the invitations to those groups. The actual full list was included as attachment A in your memo. We actually invited several more folks, but scheduling could be a little bit complicated. So that is part of why it's currently still a work in progress. And what I would like to do is, what I am planning to do is actually spend the next few months reaching out to the folks that we recognize we still need to include. And if you have suggestions and people that you think absolutely would have very valuable input to consider, please feel free to send that along to me, and I will follow up with them. And we have Vice Chair Magana and Commissioner Mendoza were the two folks from the commission who served on the ad hoc for this round. Thank
you. Is your address Carla.Alvarez at the library? Yes. Is that the same one?
That is correct.
Yeah, because I think the faith community is kind of missing in this program as well. Yeah. So thank you for those explanations. Much appreciated.
You're welcome. And to go back to Commissioner Scissors, can I hear it so I can get it correct?
It's purely phonetic. It's Zisser, like think kisser with a Z.
Okay, thank you. For your questions around, is the library seen as a resource for advancing equity work across the city? The answer is a resounding yes. Continually in the spaces of other city departments and leadership, the library is continually named as the model for equity for the city as a whole. And I am happy to share that I serve on many working groups that exist within the city. I'm on a community engagement working group. I'm on the city's GARE working group, where many different people from different departments participate in those spaces. I have given presentations about our work, for example, on the quality standards, on some of the trainings. And the other department that also currently has a full-time coordinator for equity policy, equity and inclusion is housing. So housing, that person and myself have met monthly also with staff from the Office of Racial Equity. And the Office of Racial Equity recently created an equity council, an internal equity council within the city. And I serve in representation of the library with that and with other city leadership. So those are some of the examples and the ways that that the library is continually sharing the work and trying to promote some of the tools and the strategies. We're also participating in a results-based accountability training process and how we think about our budgeting and prioritizing equity as part of our budgeting process with other city departments. And I'm not sure if someone else in the staff would like to contribute some of the other ways in which we've done that as well.
Through the chair, can I just quick follow up to that? I appreciate that, those responses. I think you should brag about that stuff at every opportunity. I am so glad to hear it. And I would just encourage you in whatever way you can, it's probably not easy, to try your best to influence departments like SJPD, like the IPA office, the Independent Police Auditor Office. Those are places where we could use your role modeling. The only other thing that I had asked earlier that that goes hand in hand with this bragging question is I guess I'm interested in your thoughts about my point about the website. That is where people interface initially with the library system. And if we can get people to those community conversations, to the equity page, to some of the other relevant information. I know you, for example, on the main page, you're featuring the Native American Heritage Day. That's great. But I'm wondering if there's thought about putting menu items, permanent menu items that will quickly direct people to this material. But I think that's maybe that's not something you've gotten to yet, but I'm curious if you have thoughts about that.
I will certainly bring this feedback back to the web team. We have a whole wonderful web team that is dedicated to arranging the layout and the features that we have. I think that's a very important point. We're actually also in the process of developing a video that's going to actually be part of the equity webpage, and we'll continue to build that out. But and that is part of our work. We actually have a meeting with them on Friday to develop a whole campaign around now publicizing the equity subsection of the webpage.
Excellent, thank you. Commissioner Thorson.
I just wanted to say thank you so much for the excellent work you're doing and your presentation. And as someone who works in a library, I really appreciate the fact that you invite all levels of staff to participate in the committees and that work is paid. I think that really demonstrates the value of this work in the library and really speaks to that. So thank you so much.
Thank you. Any other commissioners with comments or thoughts or questions? Looking around, going once, twice, 3 times. All right. Thank you so much, Carla, for all of this great work and for bringing it to us. I encourage folks, if you want to engage further, Carla is really lovely, and I'm sure will happily answer anything or actually ask for your help. Moving on, we are moving to the council liaisons announcement. I see Marielle is here. Welcome. We'd love to hear what's going on.
Of course. Thank you and good evening. I'm Mariela Garcia with Councilwoman Arenas's office. As I'm sure you all know, on November 2nd, the CDC approved the Pfizer COVID vaccinations for children ages 5 to 11. And since then, there's been a really comprehensive effort between the County of Santa Clara's Public Health Department and also the Office of Education to open up dozens of vaccination sites as soon as possible in school campuses, starting with those that were located in neighborhoods disproportionately affected by the virus. And so we really wanted to commend that effort and that equitable approach, which, you know, as we heard today and discussed today, is so important for the well-being and the health of our communities. And so to find a vaccination site and schedule an appointment, just wanted to encourage our community to visit vax.sccgov.org. And finally, we just wanted to express our gratitude for the Library and Education Commission. I personally really enjoy spending my evenings with you and hearing your discussions, and just want to thank you, thank our chair, our vice chair, and all of our commissioners for everything that you do, as well as our staff who works really, really hard to support this work. And so we appreciate your commitment to our families, to our children, to our youth, and we are wishing you all a very happy holiday season. And thank you again for everything that you do.
Thank you, Maria. Please express our thanks to Councilwoman Arenas, please. We appreciate you being here and being here so consistently and sharing with us back and forth, so the communication is open between the council member and the commission. Thank you. Commissioner Zisser, I'm not sure his comment yet, but go ahead.
Oh, I'm sorry. I just had I got a little disoriented there. We moved quickly on from the race and equity, and I see that it was informational, but I saw in the memo or in the report itself, staff had recommended actions specifically that we accept the report. So I'm seeing that it was informational on the agenda. So
It's informational. Yes, it's.
okay.
an
Does the
information-
staff want us to take any action this time or another time in terms of the report?
How about I work with them on that? I'll take that question to them. If
Okay.
they had wanted it, they would have worked, I write the agenda with them. And so we would have made it an action item, but I will ask if they need something from us
Okay.
for future voting
I'm sorry, I
purposes.
was just confused because of the recommendation at the.
No, I appreciate that. But of course, as we have it already, our agenda posted as Brown Act, it is an informational item.
Sure, gotcha. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, let's see. Thank you again, Marielle. We really appreciate you. And we haven't always had this, so we're so pleased to have this relationship. And again, wish Councilmember Arenas our best for the holiday season and her family. Okay, and you, I'm so glad. I'm going to take suit right after you. I'm going to say exactly the same thing, except I'm going to really focus on the library staff. I know that you all who are here represent quite a few others who actually have been working very, very hard through the pandemic to ensure that our children and families and actually workforce are taken care of through the pandemic. It's not gone unnoticed. People know, and we know you're tired, and we know that your service has been really, really outstanding as always. So I personally want to thank you, and I ask that you take that back to the staff you supervise and to the staff they supervise, that it hasn't gone unnoticed. We're very privileged as a commission to serve you in the work that you do. And so I really hope that you'll do that for us. And we hope you take a little time for yourselves. And then also I'd like to thank the commissioners who are here, who have been volunteering and working so hard and thinking about how the excellent work that we do has big impact. It really is a lot that this library system has put forward, and I couldn't be more proud to be a part of it. So that's really all for my announcements, to say thank you, especially as we head into moving into next year. All right. I think, Jenny, are you going to take for Jill?
I am. Hi, everybody. I'm not sure if I've actually presented anything in front of this commission with the new members. So I'm Jenny Choi. I'm the Deputy Director of Operations, and I'm here to give our director's report. I'm going to jump onto the vaccine conversation really quickly. You may not be aware, but we actually do host the vaccine pop-up sites at some of the libraries. So we have 2 events coming up. There's one at Evergreen on, let me see, I just pulled it up and I'm trying to find the date. I believe it's on the 20th, 11/20, and it's at the Evergreen Community Room from 10 to 5 p.m. And then we are also going to be at the East Valley YMCA vaccination event. That's an event for ages 5 and up. So we'll be administering the pediatric vaccines there as well. That's on the 19th from 12 to 7. So if you have any friends or family, please spread the word. Our Maker Spaceship will be there, providing some programming as well as our Alum Rock staff will be doing some library programming there. And for the other announcements, so we're very happy to announce another expansion of hours. So on November 10th, we expanded hours at the branch libraries and also the King Library. And those hours went from 10 a.m. to 7 p.m. on Wednesdays. It's just one day a week. We were formerly 1 to 6 on Wednesdays. So we increased it by 4 hours and added some of those evening hours because we know that, school's back and some of the kids and folks want to be able to use the library a little bit later. King Library, we expanded from, they were 10 to 6. So we are now open from 10 to 8 p.m. on Mondays and Wednesdays. So that's an additional 2 hours per day, 2 days a week. And then Mount Pleasant Neighborhood Library, for now, hours remain the same. And as you know, this has been part of an ongoing push and phased approach to increase library access as we had to kind of reduce our hours at the shutdown at the beginning of the pandemic. On that, I do want to give a big shout out to our personnel unit. That's one of Andrea's small but mighty units. It's our HR team of 3 people. We did not get a lot of support citywide. We were in a hiring freeze, so HR was really limited in their capacity, what they could do. So our team, they handled, since May, it was almost like over 60 new hires. I think we had like 36 promotions and then 30 something transfers. So I just wanted to give a really big shout out to them for kind of cranking through those recruitments. And as you know, the city recruiting process is not the most simple or efficient. And And we're also very excited to announce that our in-person story times have returned. So starting this week, families and caregivers can once again bring their child or children to share stories, songs, and more as we resume in-person story time. Currently, it's at select library branches where we have capacity. And the story times, obviously, I think most of you are aware, they're designed to accommodate a mix of ages, variety of topics, invites the entire family to participate in early literacy activities, all based on our SJPL quality standards. And it's a fun and interactive experience. Please spread the word. We do have some general library safety guidelines right now for COVID. Those are available on our website. And for more information, you can visit sjpl.org/storytimes. And then I think lastly, just a reminder that we do have a Thanksgiving holiday closure. So all of our branches, including King Library, will be closed for the Thanksgiving holiday. The library observes those on Thursday, the 25th, and Friday, the 26th. And we'll resume normal operating hours on Saturday, November 27th. And as always, the library's online collection, e-library card, registrations, e-learning resources, and streaming services are always open at sgpl.org. And that concludes the director's report. Thank you.
Jenny, above and beyond. We're almost home. Thank you for your report.
Sure.
Let's see, Jenny, just one more. Can you help us? Are we doing anything with Youth Commission or not quite yet? Not for reporting out on it, because I know it's still on our announcements. So,
Oh, okay. I don't believe so. This meeting.
yeah, I think you're right. I see Danica's helping.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, I think you're right. Thank you.
Got it. Thanks, Danica.
Folks, we're moving on and we're in comments and announcements. We're at B, meetings attended by commissioners as commissioners. Would any of you fine folks like to tell us about anywhere you were representing our fine work? Commissioner Kelly.
Yes, I reported on the October meeting to the Friends of the Bascom Library, and I attended the All Friends meeting on behalf of the District 9 Commissioner Program. That's what I did.
Thank you. We appreciate it. Anyone else? All right, moving right along. Commissioner Thorson, I think you are hopefully ready to go with our San Jose Public Library Foundation report.
Yes. So we have a few things going on right now. Recruitment for the next class of SJPL Vistas is open for February 14th, 2022 through February 13th, 2023 service. Those Vistas work full-time for the full calendar year and get work experience and a living stipend and an educational award when they complete the program. And they support the library with fundraising, grant writing, research, and volunteer recruitment. So I'll just paste the link into the chat, but if you know of anyone who would be interested in participating, please share this widely. And the other thing I wanted to mention is that we're heading into the end of the year, which I cannot believe, but the foundation has launched their end of the year campaign. And there are a number of ways to donate to the library. They just got the ability to receive gifts through PayPal, and Venmo is coming soon. And I wanted to share the link for the foundation. There are a number of ways to give. It can be a donation. You can make a gift for someone. There are also employer matching opportunities, and that can be both for a monetary donation or your volunteer hours. So all things to consider and spread widely within your social networks. You can also set up a fundraising webpage and send that out. And also, there's just such a wide array really of ways that you can give. And Giving Tuesday is on November 30th this year. So if you can get your word out to your friends and family about the Library Foundation, that would be a great time to give. And the foundation will be having several live Facebook events that day. And if you have any questions, or if you did not receive an email from the foundation about the end of the year campaign, feel free to send a message to Dawn in the chat and she can make sure you get any information that you need. And then finally, we have our next board meeting, which is also the last one of the year. That will be December 6th. So I won't be reporting on that until our January meeting. But we have, we'll be considering 3 prospective board members will be considered by the board to join in 2022. And if any of you would like to recommend someone that you know to serve on the board, please let Dawn know as well. The foundation is always seeking members who have great connections and are enthusiastic about the library, and also who can help the board be representative of the city's demographics. So if you know of someone, please reach out to Dawn and she will get that information. So thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Thorson. Thank you for all of your work representing us in between the foundation and coming to us every month with all the great information. I also want to thank Dawn and her team, because without the foundation and the incredible work that you've done this year, not quite sure where we'd be. So I hope that you will express on behalf of the commission our deep gratitude for your partnership and work and support. Thank you, Dawn. Okay, moving right along, information about the upcoming activities. You can see, obviously visit our webpage. This is the time for items to be considered for future meeting agendas where we can capture them properly. If there are commissioners that would like to suggest items for future agendas, let's see and raise your hand and we'll capture it now. All right, Commissioner Kelly.
Yes, thank you. The agenda item that I proposed at the last meeting apparently is going to be on the January agenda, and that has to do with procurement of books from the public. So appreciate that very much if it does happen. Again, it's not a priority thing, but it is something I would like to know about. I would also, for some future agenda, like to know more about the future of bridge libraries. I know we touched on that at one of the meetings, but it would be very good to hear more about that, what the library's plans are, whether they're going to actively increase that or keep it where it is, or what the plans are. Those are my suggestions.
Thank you, Commissioner Kelly. Others? Commissioner Zisser.
Yeah, I would like to propose, I appreciate the suggestion, some deeper dive or discussion about whether we need to revisit an ad hoc on race and equity. So some topic particularly to ask staff if that would be useful to them. There just seems like a million different things we could cover. So it seems like, we should check in with them.
Thank you. We will definitely have all 3 of those items in our next agenda planning conversations with staff. Thank you. I also want to thank our amazing, even though quiet, but seriously amazing Vice Chair, Jose Magana. He has always got our back, always working hard behind the scenes. And so I just, as this year has gone on, have really appreciated his collaboration. So thank you, Commissioner Magana. All right, we're moving right along. Meeting, all right, here we go. Next meeting will be held next year, January 19th, 2022 at 7 p.m. Wow. All right, happy new year to everyone. And we are officially adjourned for this year. Happy holidays.
Thank you, Chair Wendy.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
Bye.
Thank you, everyone.